A great feature inside of Adobe Illustrator is having the ability to work with multiple artboards. This gives you the ability to have different pieces of a campaign stored in a single document. I'm working with letterhead.ai, which is available inside the Chapter 1 folder. And here's a perfect example as to how and when and why you would want to use multiple artboards. Here we have some letterhead, an envelope, and a business card, and it's all stored within this one document. Notice that the artboards are different sizes, and they contain different names. If we come over to the Artboards panel, you can see that we have the business card artboard, we have the envelope artboard, and we have the letterhead artboard. If you double-click on any of these, you'll notice that that artboard takes up the majority of the space within the document window. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can work with multiple artboards inside of Illustrator. What I want you to do is come up to the File menu, and under the File menu, you can choose New. This will open up the New Document dialog box. For the profile, go ahead and set it to Print, and we can change the number of artboards to 4. When you set the number of artboards to something more than 1, you have the arrangement options available to you. You can set up a grid by row, a grid by column, you can arrange by row, or you can arrange by a single column. So there's a lot of different options here. I'll go ahead and leave the first option selected, which is grid by row. Because we only have 4 artboards, 2 columns makes sense, and you can also control the spacing between the artboards. Now, if you set up some bleed options, just be aware that that bleed will be applied to all 4 artboards. Individual artboards can't have individual bleed values. With that, go ahead and click OK. Once you click OK, the new document is created. So how can you control these artboards? Because based upon letterhead.ai, there was a lot of different things happening with these artboards in terms of sizing, spacing, and also naming. Well, let's come back to this document and take a look at how we can work with these artboards. First of all, you can open up the Artboards panel over here on the right-hand side. If you don't see the Artboards panel, you can come up to the Window menu, and under the Window menu, you can choose Artboards. So first of all, if you want to name the artboard, you would go ahead and double-click. By double-clicking, you can change the name of it, My Artboard. Go ahead and press Enter or Return to accept that. However, if you really want to control the artboards by changing the size or the position, or even create new or remove artboards, there's a great tool inside of Illustrator giving you the ability to do that. First of all, most of the options that I'm showing you now are available in a couple of different places. If you did want to delete an artboard or create a new artboard, notice that there's the New Artboard button and there's also the Delete Artboard button inside the Artboards panel. You also have the ability to change the stacking order. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but if you wanted this artboard to be moved down, you can click this button and it's moved down. As you click the artboards here in the Artboards panel, you'll notice they become selected. I'm going to go ahead and move this back up to the top. You can also select artboards by simply choosing the selection tool and clicking on a particular artboard. When you do that, you'll notice you get a highlight, a dark border around that artboard, and the selection is also reflected here in the Artboards panel. But let's go ahead and take a look at a useful tool for working with artboards, and that is the Artboard tool. With that selected, you'll notice you can click on each of the artboards and they become active, and you have a bounding box. So if you need to resize the artboard, you have that ability. If you want to move the artboard, you can do that. If you want to delete the artboard, you can do that here as well by clicking this little box with the X, and the artboard is removed. Also notice if you move the Artboard tool out here inside of the canvas, and the canvas is this gray area, you can store content in the canvas, and it won't print as long as it doesn't intersect with an artboard. And the canvas inside of Illustrator is pretty big. If I start zooming out, you'll see how large the canvas actually is. This box that we're seeing here is the canvas, so you have a ton of room to work with. I'll go ahead and zoom back into this. If you want to create a new artboard with the Artboard tool, simply click and drag, and there's your artboard. There are additional properties available for the artboard. With it selected with the artboard tool, you can come up here towards the top and you can click this button. This button will open up the Artboard Options dialog box. Here you can name it, you can set the width and the height, and its XY coordinate relative to the canvas, and you can also set its reference point. You can specify the orientation. If you want to constrain proportions, you can do that as well. And there's also some additional display options for showing the center mark or crosshairs or video safe margins. So if you're creating a title for a video production, you can make sure that you're going to stay within the safe region of the video. So there are quite a few options inside of this dialog box. There are also several options inside the control panel, like naming the artboard, creating a new artboard, deleting the artboard, changing the orientation. You can also set the XY coordinate here and the width and the height. And there are also some additional options here for showing the center mark, the crosshairs, and the video safe areas. So a lot of the options in that dialog box are also available here in the control panel. If you want to duplicate the artboard, you can do that. Simply hold down the Alt key on Windows, Option on the Mac, click and drag, and you've duplicated the artboard. Now this can become incredibly helpful if you have artwork inside of the artboard. If you come over here to letterhead.ai, if you wanted to create another business card, maybe you have a different design that you want to share, what you can do is select that artboard. With the artboard selected, hold down the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag, and you'll notice you've duplicated it. At this point, you could come in and make minor modifications for a second version of that business card. So the ability to work with multiple artboards inside of Illustrator, as you can see, definitely has its advantages, and working with multiple artboards is pretty easy, especially with this artboard tool.